Hi folks, welcome to Methanol Madness, brought to us by Daltons Landscape Supplies. No AJ back today, he's travelling the world still, and he's got 4 days at Charlotte Speedway enjoying the world of outlaws. Joining us in the show, as usual, is Louise Smith, and Louise, a better day to be at practice on Saturday.
Yeah, with the sun shining and a little bit less wind, it was good to see everyone get back on the track, so it was nice to be back. Yeah,
and plenty of competitors down there, which we'll review later in the show. Well, to get things started, it is Crash of the Week, brought to us by Elite Re-Roofing. That's Mike Bell and his crew, and we go back last year, Louise, to Invercargill, the Hydrolink War of the Wings, and it was Joel Myers getting a little bit out of shape as he was chasing down Shannara Stronach.
Yeah, this was very unfortunate for Joel. Obviously, he had such a strong War of the Wings performance throughout the whole season that he was in New Zealand that this was definitely very unfortunate, especially coming to such a quick turnaround with Ruapuna racing the next weekend.
Yeah, we watched the 46C car there just get in behind Shannara Stronach. He hits a rut. And of course the front wheels go up, so you've got no control over that sprint car, and it took a very violent tumble, and Joel was lucky to get out of that car without any injuries. And just remember, he was 16 years old back then, and he'd virtually won everything that he had competed in, so it was a real shake-up for the young fella, but he went on to win the next War of the Wings final, so it certainly didn't affect him as much as we might have thought of. So time to move on to the Pro Ben review of practice, and we'll review all classes. Louise, the quarter midgets had a good turnout on Saturday.
Yeah, I think that they had the most cars out there, so that was definitely cool to see everyone putting in the effort to make it out to practice. But it was really strong performances from a lot of our guys. I think everyone that we thought was kind of going to be competitive this year, with Brodie Morris, Jack Brownlees, Brooke and Jackson Clark, were definitely the strongest out there. But I was really impressed with a lot of our rookie performances too. They definitely showed promising pace. Yeah,
I think you were saying Kyla and Zane Hinton, both rookies from the same family this year, went particularly well.
Yeah, they did. They had a really good performance, and they've been stellar at Ellesmere last weekend as well, but they put a lot of laps under their belts around their paddock at home over the off-season, so it's good to see them getting in that practice before the season starts.
Great stuff. Good to see them at the track, and Jack Brownlees and Brodie Morris busting the 19-second lap times there, which is pretty good going for a practice run. Good stuff, fellas. We'll move on to the TQs, and another good field of TQs turned up, Louise. Kimberly Yeatman had a very quick lap time, 15.35 seconds, which was just 0.2 of a second away from the lap record. She'd be very pleased with that.
Yeah, it was very impressive, and there was a lot of TQs out there as well, so again, a really good class to see them making the effort to put into practice, which was really impressive.
Rebecca Bugler got it all wrong. She tipped her car up, just lacking a wee bit of setup on that car. It was a very slick track, and she was the only one to really tip it on its side. Ricky Brett returned as well.
Yeah, they were definitely putting down some quick lap times all over, and Ricky was another one that really impressed a lot of people, I think. But it was also Jamie Booth, I thought, was very quick all day, but there was also Montana, Mike Bell and Ethan Smith also putting down some solid lap times.
Yeah, good stuff. The TQs are in good form this year, and we've got some pretty good competitors coming together. And I'm especially interested in Ricky Brett, being an ex-New Zealand champion. I think he's got a lot to offer, and I think he bought Ben Morrison's car from last year, so that's certainly a very fast car to be racing in. V6 wingless sprints, we had a number of those on the track, and Chris Jemmett got a few laps at the track there, Louise. He's supposed to be driving a sprint car, but we're not allowed to talk about that apparently.
Yeah, not quite the class I thought I was going to see Chris Jemmett in on practice day, but cool to see him get some laps nonetheless.
Yeah, he was driving Charlene's car and going pretty well on that track that he prepares for us at Ruapuna Speedway. Kane Jemmett was probably the fastest. He took out the one race that they had at the end of their practice session, and it was him and Andrew Gregg that looked very quick. And I see Kirk Hawkins was mixing it up as ever.
Yeah, that car looks really good on the track too. I'm a massive fan of that design, yeah.
Of note, Sam Johnson, you were doing some pretty nice laps there. That's a great looking car you got there in the V6 wingless sprints this year. Also, time to move on to modified sprints, and a real surprise there with Angus Dawson, or Gus Dawson is what they call him. He did some really good laps at the track, Louise.
Yeah, it's really cool to see some new drivers headed into the modified class. I thought that he did really well, especially for his first hit out.
Yeah, just 17 years old, and if everything goes well for Gus, he's going to be piloting a sprint car quicker than we might imagine, with his father Landon having that sprint car sitting up in Nelson. Harry McIntyre looked fast and consistent, so you've really got that car going well, Harry. And Craig Cox was working on a whole heap of setup issues. That car was understeering terribly, but Coxie, as normal, just drives around the problem, and his lap times were very good. Courtney Jones broke the 15-second barrier, so that's a pretty fast time for her.
Yeah, I was definitely impressed with Courtney. She definitely looked really quick on the track, which I hope is just a prelude of what's to come for her this season. Yeah,
she's been pretty consistent. She's got that new car now, so we'll see how the modified sprints treat her this year. Time to move on to the midgets, and a small field of midget car drivers, but some good quality ones. We had Liam McCurby, Tom Lumsden and Jack Lowe all lapping very well. The midgets lined up for a race a little later in the afternoon, and it was Liam McCurby throwing in sliders on practice day, and he had 2 cracks at Scott Miller. Mucked it up on the first one, but put a really nice slider in on the second time, and that car looks really fast this year, Louise.
Yeah, they've definitely been the force to be reckoned with the last couple of seasons, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see Liam go a 3P in the Canterbury Championships later on in November.
Yeah, exactly. Mitchell Hill, you were putting slide jobs in as well. Nice to see your car going as well as it did. And Jack Lowe just hanging off the back there in the last race, and he was lapping very fast and just working on some setups there. He had the fastest lap of the session. 4 sprint cars turned up, Louise. Good to see our 2 rookies there.
Yeah, they did really well. I thought that they definitely put down some good lap times, and you could see them improving throughout the day. So I think it'll be really cool to see how they adjust for the rest of the season, especially both of them coming from the TQ class. Yeah,
Dylan Forsey we're talking about, and Kyle Glover, both having their first experience in the sprint car on practice day with just a week to go before opening night. So probably some sleepless nights for both of those guys with the Daltons Sprint Car Summer Slam happening on Saturday. Jaden Dodge was very fast, wasn't he? Man, that car looked so quick, and he just showed the difference between someone that can really rattle around those corners versus the rookies. I think we're going to have a good season for Jaden Dodge.
Yeah, new look, new different number. I think it'll be cool to see how he goes for the rest of the season. He was certainly putting down some quick laps and wasn't letting the rookie drivers get in his way or anything. He just sat down and did what he needed to do. Yeah,
it was a real treat to watch that car. He was doing 13.5-second laps on a fairly dry, slick track, and that's a really good speed to be carrying around Ruapuna on practice day. Bailey Patterson was the other sprint car driver that was at the track, and Bailey had a whole heap of mechanical issues for the first 2 runs, but he got his car all fired up in the last run, and he was fast. He was a little wild. He had the car going up on the wall and a little more sideways than he would have liked, but good to see you going hard there, Bailey, in your first run for the season on practice day in the weekend. Okay folks, time to take a break, but when we get back, it's Dirt Track News. Welcome to Wellington's largest caravan and RV shop. CB Caravans and RV Centre look after repairs and maintenance, and they are leak specialists. CB Caravans and RV Centre import UK caravans. Need to sell? They can help. CB Caravans and RV Centre, your caravan solution. Catch up with Will and Wendy today. The team at Edge Parts and Performance have got safety covered. They're proud stockists of Simpson safety products, helmets, head and neck restraints, harnesses, racing suits, gloves, shoes and more. Simpson safety products provide an unparalleled level of comfort, performance and protection. Come and check out their new range of Simpson suits, lightweight 2-layer SFI approved suits that offers flexibility and functionality all in one. They've also got the Red Devil carbon fibre lightweight racing helmet in stock. Okay folks, time to move on to Dirt Track News, brought to us by CB Caravans and RV Centre. Well, Louise, it was feature time at Kiki for the midgets, and Brad Mosen took it out.
He did, and doing it from P3, especially starting behind Brock Maskovich and Michael Pickens, was very impressive. But he went on to win that race, which was great for him and the team. And then after 3 hours of sleep, woke up the next morning and ran the Auckland Marathon. So really? He's definitely putting in all the work that he can to be the best race car driver he can be. Yeah,
well, a few seasons ago, he really dropped some pounds, and his racing really improved. And obviously, he's continuing with the fitness regime. Good stuff, Brad. We can't wait to see you down here for the Access Man Midget Car title on the 3rd and 4th of February. But it was an interesting race. You had to survive a last minute attack by Michael Pickens with 2 laps to go. Michael really tried to put the acid on you, but you managed to hold him out. Not an easy feat, but certainly you've got that car going as well as ever. Max Guilford had a really good drive.
Yeah, all the clips that I saw Brock running in 3rd, so it was definitely impressive to see him get that position and put it on the podium. He's definitely strong every time he gets in the midget, which I think is impressive considering that he runs the sprint car a lot of the time.
Yeah, Mad Max will tell you that his preference is the sprint car, but certainly he keeps pedaling that midget car as well as ever, and he's going to be another favoured runner coming down here in February. The CB Caravans and RV Centred sponsored driver Luke McClymont wasn't to be seen in the feature, Louise, but he did get a second placing there, so he's continuing on good form, and we must remember he's only a rookie to midget car driving this year.
Exactly, he's only got a few meetings under his belt, and I think that the best is yet to come for Luke.
Absolutely. Time to look at the sprint cars at Kiki, and Dean Brindle continued his good form from last week, taking out a heat race, but it was Daniel Thomas, the 1NZ sprint car champion, defending his title by taking out a feature, and that was a pretty convincing win.
Definitely a very impressive win for Daniel Thomas. He withheld from a lap car, causing a bit of an incident there, and he did well to keep it going and go on to win the feature race. Yeah,
it did cause a minor drama there with just one lap to go. A car just ran into the side of him. He managed to drive out of it, but what it meant is there was a 2-lap restart, and Daniel, being as good as he is, he managed to win it pretty convincingly in the end. A wee minor upset for third though.
Yeah, it was definitely interesting to see Ayrton Hodson finish third, his first ever sprint car podium from P5 and with a broken right rear shock. So it was definitely impressive for Ayrton, and I know he was very stoked with that result.
Well, that's a real drive, Ed, congratulations to you. We've been watching your progress over the last few years, and congratulations on your first podium at a feature. Time to move on to the Southern Sprint Car Series happening at Beachland Speedway in Dunedin, and it was Adam Evans from Cromwell taking out the feature there, with Matthew Anderson and our very own Caleb Bourne taking out third, Louise.
Yeah, those three were definitely strong in Cromwell, so it was cool to see Adam win a feature and then Caleb on the podium as well. Is really cool for our sport.
Caleb will be one of the favourites with our Dalton Sprint Car Summer Slam coming up this week, and it's Adam Evans is driving to Christchurch to compete there as well. And of note, Caleb had the fastest lap time there at Beachlands of 14.05 seconds. A pretty big track, that Beachlands, and they really get some speed honking along the straights. Well, the last item we'll look at in dirt track news is the state of Western Springs Speedway, and we know just a few months ago the cyclone ripped through the track and caused all sorts of damage, and we now find out, Louise, that racing's not going to start there until February next year.
It's a very unwelcome delay on their season. They've had such a disruptive last couple of years. It's been really rocky for the Speedway, and it's such an important piece of our history for all of motorsports in New Zealand and dirt track racing in the world, that to see them get shut down with threats of closure, and then the pandemic with no internationals able to visit, and now flood damage, it's just never ending for them.
Yeah, it's a real dire time for Western Springs and open wheel racing in general. We really need Western Springs to be up and running. It is the flagship of speedway racing here in New Zealand, and we know it's a sensitive subject to talk about. The council have their own views. They've made it fairly well known they don't want Western Springs operating from there, and they were even talking about getting a new track set up for them, but with all these delays, we need to be very worried about Western Springs. The fragmentation of midget and sprint cars and TQs being dispersed to all other tracks around the North Island is it's okay. It's a good temporary measure at the moment, but for me, I really want Western Springs to be up and running. We miss that Christmas racing, don't we?
Yeah, 100%. I think it's a big pinnacle event, or all of those events, and we saw the Pickens 54 run its first ever event, and I was really looking forward to that becoming annual, so I hope they either slot that in somewhere or maybe even find it a new temporary home. But I think that Western Springs is so important for our sport, and it's a place that I've grown up at, a place that we all love, so I definitely think that it can't go anywhere.
Yeah, certainly difficult times. Just thinking about all the Americans that travelled here. Kyle Larson's been down here. Buddy Cofoyd was racing here last year. Rico Abreu and a number of other drivers. So it's certainly been a home for some very talented American midget car drivers and sprint car drivers for that matter. And we hope that they get up and running and get their season under control. But on the back of all that news from Western Springs, we caught up with Graham Standring. He was down supporting Jaden Dodge at practice on Saturday, and he had a couple of views on the subject as well. What is happening with Western Springs? Can you give us an update?
Yeah, I had a meeting there with the council probably about 2 months ago, and the track doesn't look as bad, or the pit area doesn't look as bad as they claimed.
Yep.
But we are waiting on the council to resurface the pit area.
Yep.
50% of the fencing has to go up around the track, which isn't a real big issue.
Yep.
The real problem was that when the transformers for the lights were underwater, they were put out of action. So they're trying to get that in place, and that'll take some time. Our suggestion is that they put mobile generators at the base of each light post and see if they could light it up for that.
Yep.
I'm not sure how that's gone with the council. They did put aside some budget to get us back there. But as I understand it, from this point on, we are talking about February the 11th before the first meeting, which is the North Island Sprint Car Championship. The 16th and 17th is the New Zealand Sprint Car Championship. They've applied for 2 meetings in March of next year. One has been allowed at this stage, and they're reapplying for another meeting after that. So it's a pretty minimised season at Western Springs so far.
It's very frustrating for the drivers, I'm sure, because normally you guys will be racing in November, and certainly that whole Christmas racing won't be had at Western Springs. What's the vibe like with all the drivers? What's the inside word on it?
Well, I went to the practice at Waikareka Park maybe 2 weeks ago, and honestly it felt a little bit flat. The guys have got their cars prepared beautifully, like everything that I've seen here at Ruapuna Speedway, and they're really no place to go. It's all dressed up with nowhere to go.
Yep.
So they're racing in Kihikihi tonight. They raced at Bay Park last week, and they're going to have to travel quite a bit more to get in an amount of racing. There is talk of a meeting for the Western Springs cars to be at Waikareka Park on November the 18th.
Yeah.
I think that would be like the Western Springs opening night. And but yeah, everybody's frustrated, as you can imagine, but certainly getting on with the fact that they've got to build cars and get themselves prepared for the championships that are coming up.
What do you think the long-term consequences are of having this shortened season and uncertainty with all the drivers?
I put it back down to when they closed Western Springs Stadium to put a new wall in the place. The whole event lost its momentum. People found other things to do, other things to do on a Saturday night. It was just that. It took a long time to regather its momentum and get going again, and the crowds came back and new people came to the Speedway because it's, as we all know, it's a fantastic night of entertainment motorsport.
Yeah.
So I think that this will hurt the Speedway severely, only these 3 meetings. The Speedway diehards will obviously, the crowd will be there for those, but long term, I think it will take a while for it to build back up again. And if we can keep going at Western Springs, remember it started in 1929, we can keep going closer to the 2029 anniversary or centennial anniversary of the place, the better chance we've got of it retaining there.
Well, I know there'll be some people benefiting. I'm sure Bay Park's benefiting and Kiki and some of those other tracks, but we really need Western Springs to be running, to be honest. It has been the flagship for a long, long time. Ruapuna's benefiting a little bit, but I think it's going to be a terrible situation if Western Springs doesn't get up and running. It's got some real big decisions to make in the next couple of years.
Yes, they have, and the unfortunate part is, as passionate as we are about our sport of Speedway, the council doesn't share the same enthusiasm for it.
Yeah.
So we're really trying to convince these people that it's not just guys going racing, it's actually professional motorsport, and it's an industry that surrounds the whole thing.
Yeah.
So it's really quite a situation. But in saying that, I mean, I know all the other tracks will benefit from it, but I give a lot of credit to the people in Christchurch, what you've done here with Ruapuna over the last few years.
Yep.
I can't wait to get down here now. It's my new home now, so I'm having a good time.
Well, I guess if we're a little bit biased, we can see the weight of racing coming our way, and it's certainly exciting. And the reason I say we think that Western Springs needs to survive as well is that that's predominantly been an open wheel track, and I know they're thinking about mixing that up as well, and that's probably going to cause a few headaches for a few drivers. What's your thoughts on the mixed classes?
I'm not a big on the mixed classes. They are really different beasts. They require 2 different types of track as such.
Yep.
And also, for example, a stock car track, the walls, the fence is I think 1 metre back from the wall.
Yep.
Well, that doesn't suit open wheel racing with roll cages where they can tumble along the edge of the concrete.
Yep.
On an open wheel track, the fence is directly above the wall. If they hit the fence, they drop back to the track. So there's things like that are really quite different.
Yep.
I've been brought up around open wheel racing, so naturally I'm biased towards that, but I have seen some great saloon racing, stock car racing, etc.
Yeah.
I don't know that there's a merger of the two. I think that it would be better for them to keep them as separate as possible.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion.
Well, interesting times, Graham. I'm sure you've got your eyes on everything that's happening up there, and it's a bit of a bittersweet time for all the very well-known families up that way. Where do you think they will move to predominantly?
That's a tough one. I mean, Speedway people are Speedway people. They're like me. They're passionate. They want to. I come to Christchurch so I can see Speedway. So they will go to all the other events, all the other tracks like Waikareka and things like that. Waikareka is a nice venue, but it's not Western Springs. It's not quite like that. but the work that you guys have done here and the way that you've prepared, ready for perhaps the influx of things, the committee that's here organising it, it's so much more a professional show now. It marks time with Western Springs. It's going to be the flagship of Speedway, I'm sure, with Western Springs' demise at the moment. If we get back up and going at Western Springs, sure, the people will come, but the population's ageing. We need the new people to come through. We need the enthusiasm of the young guys, of the quarter kids to become TQ drivers, midget drivers, sprint cars and so on. If we lose that link in the chain as such, it will be very hard to claw it back.
Well, some interesting thoughts there by Graham Standring, and certainly some food for thought, but we all want the best for Western Springs Speedway. So time to move on to our competition winners from last week. This was our share and win competition for opening night at the Racecourse Hotel and Motor Lodge, Ruapuna Speedway. Lots of people participated in this, and we appreciate you sharing it around the social media links. And Louise, who were our winners?
10 winners of this competition are Mary Perrin, Jason Wright, Amelia Ledbetter, Donna McCall, Lorraine Lambert, Ben Aitken, Jess Richards, Erin May Taylor, Ashley Thornley and Anita Curry.
Yeah, good stuff, folks. You'll get to enjoy 2 double passes for Ruapuna Speedway on opening night this Saturday, and all you have to do to collect your prizes is turn up to the public ticketing area with a bit of ID, and Jared will hand out a couple of tickets to you. Time to move on to the Pro Ben preview, and this week at the Racecourse Hotel and Motor Lodge Ruapuna Speedway we've got several big events. The first one we'll look at, Louise, is the Daltons Sprint Car Summer Slam.
Yeah, definitely good to see some early big names up there that I think will be really strong contenders that'll be looking forward to having a good start to their season. Yeah,
I think the favourite there on Saturday night will be Adam Evans with that good Southern Sprint Car Series form 98T. He's travelling up from Cromwell. And probably have to look at Jaden Dodge based on his practice last week. He was looking particularly racy. And of course, we've got Jamie Duff, Connor Rangi, and Bailey Patterson. Can't wait to see Bailey racing again in that sprint car of his. He was certainly fast and wild the other day at practice, and hopefully he can go well. The other event that's happening on the night, apart from all the other classes racing, is the City South Van Spears Midget Super Series, and 11 runners here. Louise, who's your favourite for that?
I think our midget field's looking really great, but I think that Liam McCoubre would definitely have to be my pick. But it'll also be interesting to see how the new guy Jacob Mitchell does in the midget as well, so it'll be interesting to see what happens there.
Yeah, Tom Lumsden's another favourite there, and certainly we're going to have some pretty good racing. They've got a 3-round series which starts on opening night this Saturday. So time to move on to final thoughts, and lots happening around the Speedway community at the moment. Louise, what are you looking forward to?
I'm definitely looking forward to getting the Ruapuna season underway. I think that everyone's already got a couple of meetings under their belt, so I'm looking forward to having our start. But we've got a lot of really strong fields for this Saturday throughout all of our classes, so it'll be really good to see them all go.
Brilliant. And of course, just a reminder, Dalton Sprint Car Summer Slam for the sprint cars, and it's the City South Van Spears Midget Super Series, and our other regular classes competing as well. The other thing that you might want to look out for is the new light system. So that's going to be something interesting, Louise. We've seen it during the winter, and it looks pretty impressive, and I wonder if it'll be a real different experience for our fans.
I think it absolutely will be. Both fans and drivers, I think, will notice a big difference, but we haven't had quite the chance yet to test them in the dark whilst racing is going on, so it'll be a good tester. I'm excited. Yeah, fingers crossed they stay on, but I'm sure they'll be perfectly fine. All right, folks, that's the end of the show. My thanks to Louise Smith for joining us, and until next time, keep your foot up it.